These are some of the comments that I've been getting over the past year or so, and even more so recently. And I've started to feel kinda bad for not responding to them, because some of them are truly heartfelt. But the reason isn't just to be a dick, it's just because, I wanted to get away from the community as much as I could. Now I know that sounds like a knife to the heart to the people watching this video, but back when I left, after uploading my last intro on the 1st of January 2023, I just felt like the community had reached a point of no return. There was endless toxicity, rivalry between different parts of the community, and I didn't want to keep on doing something with such an unhealthy environment attached to it. Now don't get me wrong, I'm not speaking to every single person in this community. I've made some great friends along the way, and several people that I still talk to this day, even several years later, but the negative parts were overweighed by the positive in my opinion. Of course there are more reasons as to why I left, such as intros not being a reliable thing to keep on doing forever, other programs and fields of work taking up my interest, and just life in general. But yeah, this is me. I'm SkooArtz. I'm now 19 years old, and after almost 2 years after my departure, I feel like I owe you some explanation as for my sudden disappearance. And yeah, sorry if I sound weird, it's just that while recording this I'm actually sick, so kinda inconvenient. But first, let's go back in time a bit and reflect on my journey as to how all of this even happened to begin with. Now, for the blissfully unaware people, you might think that this is my first intro, just because it's the oldest one on my channel right now, but before this channel I actually had another one with a purple profile picture that dates all the way back to 2016. And this intro right here was uploaded on the August 28th, 2016. And you might think this is my first intro, but it actually dates even further back than that, because this channel was like my side project, or a hobby thing back then, because I had another main channel which is even smaller. It's just like I was just posting shit posts when I was 9 years old, but that is actually where my first channel is, and I'll leave a link to both of the channels in the description if you want to check them out. But yeah, this intro is my oldest intro ever. This was uploaded June 15th, 2016, and yeah, have a look.
It's a fucking nightmare, you bitch!
Now I know that was very short-lasted and quite frankly awful, but that is basically the style of the intros that I used to make in 2016 on that channel, for only about a month, up until I made the other SkooArtz channel, August 28th, 2016, where I continued the same style for quite a while, and I have this thing I'd call mega syncs, which were just one single colored text with a flashy colored anamorphic lens flare hooked up with some cool sync to demonstrate my undeniable skill in intros, such as this. And yes, basically every single one of these so-called mega syncs had that signature plus 100 decibel explosion at every drop, although I did kindly lower it while editing for your sake just now. And eventually I started evolving more and more, creating more standard 2016 3D oriented intros, which I was finding really fun at the time, because I was either on summer break or homeschooled at the time, so I had a lot of time on my hands and it was really fun. It became extra fun when one of my intros was featured on KBJ123's channel at one point, for those who remember that. That is when I felt I had truly made it within intros, despite the intros still being hot garbage at the time, but it really piqued my motivation, because KBJ, he had several thousands of subscribers at that time, so it was a really big thing. I simply continued just doing my thing and improved more and more over the years of 2016 and 2017. I even tried hopping on the top intro template videos train by making a few of my own, but they kind of failed as they were a hassle to do and nobody really cared to watch, so I stopped. Eventually I started taking commissions, but I wasn't getting paid orders yet because I don't think I even had any form of payment. I think the commissions I ended up doing were just out of kindness or just because someone was a mutual or something. I can't exactly remember, but one thing was clear: I was not getting money for shit. But technically, here's my first ever commission, whether it was driven by money or not. And yeah, there's that unnecessarily loud sonic boom again, which I once again kindly lowered for your ears. But yeah, as time went on, I made them more and more, until I at one point quit. My motivations were, according to my 11-year-old self-description, I was very demotivated, I get bad criticism, I get complained, and I am bad at making them. But as an intro maker, every intro maker is obligated to quit and then return within 6 months anyway. Which is exactly what I did, and according to my still 11-year-old self's description, I came back because I felt like it just feels lonely without you guys, so I might come back. So I was back on track, and I developed a more moody style until I started uploading less frequently until March 26th, 2018, when I left, again without announcement. But of course, I returned within a year as a classic intro maker move, as a video I had uploaded on another channel had gone viral and it re-sparked my interest for intros again. And this is where I started this channel, the 17th of November 2018. And this time I was really feeling it, as I felt like I was improving at a rapid pace, and I don't know if that's because I had taken a quote-unquote break, or if it was because of the new Clipmaker 3, or Panzoid preview, whichever you want to call it, since it had a lot more new features such as new effects, better rendering, and most importantly layers. But I was having the time of my life at this point with intros, and it was really fun making them during this time while learning and improving. A few months later, I had opened a new shop again, but this time with proper payment methods and actual coordination. And just a bit later, I got my very first paid commission, Kenzo. And this marked the start of many more clients to come to me to order an intro, whether it was for them to use for their own videos or just to have their name displayed on my channel. As I was learning and improving on my intros, the 24th of August 2019, behind the scenes, around the time these intros were uploaded, I had started a very ambitious project. The 44 style 2-minute and 7-second long world record multi-style, a project that would test my patience and my abilities, but one that I nonetheless was not planning to give up on, because my motivation was at an all-time high, and I kept imagining the entire project finished in my mind, that it would be my magnum opus at the time. And after almost exactly 2 months, it was finished, and after 5 years, since only 2 days ago, the 30th of October, it has amassed over 55,000 views. It was my proudest achievement to date. This multi-style was originally intended to be for my 1000 subscriber special, but it was either waiting a long time to gain 200 subscribers to reach 1000 subscribers, because I had already finished the multi-style by then, or I could upload it to celebrate that multi-style being my 100th video on the channel instead. So it was instead my 800 subscriber special as well as my 100th video as a cherry on top. Shortly after, I would eventually reach my first 4-digit subscriber count ever, and it was time for a special celebration. At this time, it was popular for intro makers to make a series of free intros that were normally made through a request through a Google formula. This trend was started by Braz as a way to give a head start for himself after his 1-year-long hiatus, a concept that many other intro makers took inspiration from, including me. But I felt like it wasn't enough for such a special occasion, so I also started my very own tournament to celebrate. This tournament lasted up for about half a year with 6 rounds in total, which eventually turned out to have crowned Noin, or Noon, however you want to pronounce his name, as the final victor. All while the tournament was ongoing, the 50 free intros were still at play, and these were really fun to make because I felt a lot less restricted through customer restraints and expectations, so I had a lot more opportunity to express myself creatively, and I feel like I learned a lot through them and had lots of fun. In the midst of the free intros, I also reached 2,000 subscribers, which happened surprisingly fast. I ended up celebrating with a massive pack that should cover all areas for the average Panzoid intro maker. It is still, to this day, used widely among many intro makers, and I'm happy I was able to provide for other designers, as it also featured some tutorials in form of Google documents. Because most of my life I've been too self-conscious of myself, and I was afraid of speaking with my voice in front of so many people, until now of course. But yeah, the free intros were done, and this is when things started slowing down a lot. I reopened my shop, but I closed it shortly after because I just wasn't finding it as fun anymore, and it's not like I was making a fortune out of it anyway. I preferred way more to make intros for whoever I wanted, whenever I wanted, in whatever style I wanted. This is when I also started experimenting a lot with new programs such as Blender and After Effects, and while some people might see it as a betrayal to my Panzoid legacy, I see it more as a step forward in my 3D knowledge and comfort zone, and it was really fun. Around this time I now started uploading a lot less frequently, simply because I was making more time for friends, living life, and since I had removed my restrictions of deadlines from what would be possible customers, I had lost my consistency a lot. Although with these more infrequent uploads, I became a lot more ambitious. I started making animated music videos, minute-long multi-styles, and time-consuming projects. But eventually they became so ambitious that one day I just stopped. During the last few months before this intro, I was experiencing a lot of turmoil in regards to Panzoid. For those of you who didn't know, I used to have a Discord server, which would be my gateway to the community. And for those of you who do know, you know what a shit show that server was. I'm not gonna point out any names, but there's one name I can point out, and that is myself. I admit that I was not fit for a server owner. I had set up quite a bad set of rules that were easily averted, that were quite frankly sometimes a bit over the top. I had a big lack of moderation, and the server was rarely taken seriously as there was endless amounts of trolling and it wasn't used for its actual purposes. It was mainly just a mockery of what I had created, so I ended up shutting it down. And this isn't an attempt of self-victimizing, but rather just an admission of being in the wrong, manning up and moving on and not doing the same thing again. But the whole ordeal kinda left the image of Panzoid and intros as a whole as a bad mental image for myself. But as I mentioned in the beginning of the video, this wasn't the only factor, but also just because intros were getting generally boring, I had started doing other things. So that begs the question, what have I been doing the past 2 years? Well, after that last intro, I was really hooked on Blender, so I joined a Blender server based around monthly challenges and started partaking in those a lot, and you can see some remnants of those on my Instagram page that I'll also leave in the description. I also just made quite a few Blender pieces for myself, but even Blender started getting stale for me, so I started trying to draw digitally in 2D on Photoshop, which went pretty well for what it's worth. But even that started to slow down for me, mainly because I'm such a perfectionist and whenever I'd start a drawing I'd be trying way too hard to make it as good as possible, and that took a lot of time, but for the times it worked, it really worked, and I was really satisfied. But after this, I was kind of lost. I tried to make a drawing every once in a while, but most of my time spent in this in-between space was just spending time with my online friends and just taking a chill, and this is mostly speaking for last year's summer break. During the summer break of 2023, I asked my dad if I could borrow his electric guitar, because I had gotten interested to try it as I found myself often waving an imaginary guitar pick when listening to music, as silly as it sounds. I got to borrow it and instantly I was hooked. Shortly after that I got my first acoustic guitar and I was on to learning that thing until it was worn out. On to 2024, where earlier this year I was trying to up my performance in school, which took a bit of time for me as well, in order to try to apply for a graphic design major. But towards the summer break of 2024 I was learning the guitar even more, and now I was doubting the graphic design major, and instead focusing on getting into a music major with my newfound interest of music production. Luckily these two majors are housed at the same school, so I could easily switch, and by the end of the summer break I got admitted and now I'm enrolled in a music major. And in this music major, I've found my like-minded people who I truly enjoy spending my time with, all while becoming more and more educated in this field I'm trying to pursue. And this leads me to this video, sitting with a relatively strong cold during autumn break while making this video after realizing I should probably have made it sooner after seeing some more comments recently asking about my existence. And I hope this has answered everyone's questions clearly enough. In case it wasn't obvious, yes, I quit. I quit a long time ago, and I'm sorry for not explaining anything until almost 2 years later, but I hope this suffices. I'm comfortable where I'm at in life, and I want to leave the past in the past and keep doing my thing. But what would this quit video be without one last intro? Thank you for watching.
I love it. From a past life. Somewhere between a lover and a friend. It was different back then. Surreal, poetic but uncertain. Like a bizarre chick flick with a confusing end. But I shut it down, closed it off. The sounds and smells I made myself forget. A cheap solution to blackout regret. But it was real. It just feels like a past life. is just a random event. It consumes me. I thought I was moving on, but I guess I was just switching off. And now I see my life as the banal slog it instantly became. And I don't know if I can go on the same.